Oh, good. So we're starting in a seated position this morning. Welcome to you all. I think we should begin with our invocation. So sit up tall. Take a few quiet breaths. So make your breath a little deeper, a little slower. A little deeper, a little slower. And then we'll bring our palms together in front of the chest, thumbs lightly touching for our invocation. Please join me. Take a breath. May we be protected together. May we be nourished together. May we create strength and abundance. May we work together with great vigor. May we grow in clarity, wisdom, and peace. And may our thoughts of peace for our personal selves ripple outwards into the wider community. Just pause for a moment with a thought of peace. Peace at your heart. Peace in your home. In your community. In the wider world. Okay, let's begin. Today our class is going to focus a lot on the spine, its strength, its mobility, the functions, many and various, and in particular, the shape of our curves. I'm going to change to speaker view and just turn side on so you can think about your own curves. So if I get back a bit, thinking about your thoracic curve, so slightly curving in at the neck, that's called, that's a cervical curve, wrong name. Neck is the cervical curve, and the upper chest, the upper back is curving outwards, the thoracic curve, and then there's the lumbar curve curving in. And we all have different ranges, degrees of curvature. But what is really important is that we're able to stack up our curves, stack up the weight of the body, one area above the other. So we're going to work on stabilizing the spine, the curves and the supporting structures around them, the muscles. Think about the organs that the bones are protecting, and mobilizing in all possible directions. So our spine can curve forwards into flexion. It can extend backwards somewhat into extension. There's lateral movement possible, rotational movement possible, and axial extension. In other words, drawing yourself up taller to gently straighten out the curves a little. So we're going to work on each of those movements, and all in the cause of the health of our spine, because that's really the foundation of our well-being, the health of our spine, our ability to move and separate those compartments of cervical, thoracic, and lumbar, to work them individually, but to also have them join smoothly in concert, working together. So let's begin sitting up tall. You might be sitting cross-legged on the floor, or you could be kneeling, you could be sitting in a chair. And the first movement is for our cervical, the neck region. So begin just gazing straight ahead of you. Your chin is parallel with the floor. And take a breath in and gently raise your chin, look up. And then exhale, lower the chin, look down. Work with that movement, limiting the movement to the neck region. So nothing much at all going on in the lower spine. See how the movement feels for you. Inhale, lift the chin, look up. Exhale slowly and gradually. Lower the chin. Maybe you can take it a little lower still. Twice more like that. So it's smooth and gradual, not forcing. Exploring your capacity to mobilize the vertebrae and the discs and the muscles in the neck. And then release that movement, and we'll move down lower into the thoracic region. So lift your arms and bring your elbows together and your palms together. And we're going to inhale, open the elbows outwards, lift up your sternum, look up. So we're utilizing cervical movement and thoracic. And then exhale, bring your elbows together and chin down. Work with that slow movement. Bring your shoulder blades squeezing together. So stronger in the upper back. And then exhale, rounding the upper back, separating shoulder blades, chin to chest. A few more like that, just at a slow pace. And focus your attention on the movements in your neck and upper back, the movements of your spine. So cervical goes into extension, thoracic straightens out a little, and you're squeezing between the shoulder blades. And then we reverse those, cervical into flexion and thoracic into stronger rounding. One more like that. Nothing much happening in the lumbar. And then let your hands come to your knees, sit up tall. Just feel the effect of those, the two regions of the spine moving. And then we'll add the lumbar curve action. So we're going to, once again, start by lifting the chin as we breathe in and squeeze, take the arms back, squeezing the shoulder blades towards the spine, and let your pelvis kick back. And then from the pelvis, curl your tail under, rounding in the chest, dropping your chin. So pull that tail under, you're straightening out the lumbar curve. Again, lead with the chin and lift the sternum, squeeze the shoulder blades, and let the pelvis tilt back. So your tail is sticking out behind you. And then leading with the tail, curl the tail under, firming the belly. So you're trying to pull your belly in as you tuck the pelvis forward. Elbows come together, chin to chest. A couple more like that. And let the movement flow. And visualize your spine. So the exhale starts with the tail tucking under, pelvis tilting forward. thoracic, very rounded, cervical, chin to chest. One more like that. And then release. Let your hands rest on your knees. Just notice any sensations of change, any sensations of activation. The health of our spine is a really critical aspect of our well-being, as I said, and we can relate to it the incoming prana as we breathe in. We're drawing breath, drawing life force in, and it travels in as we inhale and comes down. And in the yoga understanding of movement, of nourishment, it's then diffusing through the body. And as we exhale, there's a power at the navel center to expel the breath. So our exhalation, triggered mainly by the diaphragm rising up again, assisted by pulling in below the navel and that focusing of energy towards the midline with, I sent you an email regarding the movement of energy in the yoga tradition. This power of fire and digestion at the navel is called samana. So when we pull in below the navel, we're triggering the diaphragm to rise up and push the breath out. So we're working with this pattern of movement in different positions. So next we'll move down onto hands and knees on the floor. If that doesn't suit your knees, you don't want to do that, then we're just going to repeat the spine movements from all fours. But if not, you could stay in your chair and do exactly the same. So if you're able, ready to come onto hands and knees and bring yourself into a neutral spine position. That means your face is looking downwards and your pelvis is level. It's neither tilted back or tucked under. So we're in a neutral starting position. And we're going to hold the lumbar and thoracic very steady and simply inhale, bring the chin forward, and exhale, tuck the chin in. So we're isolating the movement in the cervical. Keep going with this a few times. Chin comes forward as you inhale. Chin to chest as you exhale. So if you're sitting in a chair, just moving your neck region, the other curves of your spine staying still. And now we'll add the chest movement. So as you inhale, draw your sternum forward and shoulders go down. So you can feel your shoulder blades tucking in, lifting your chin. And then arch the upper back high, chin to chest. Not much in the lumbar, limiting the lumbar, working together, the cervical and thoracic spines. So inhaling, bring your chin forward and bring your sternum forward so your shoulders are wide open and you can feel your shoulder blades tucking in, flattening to the back. And then rounding, arching up high, shoulder blades wide, chin to chest. And now add the lumbar movement. So as you inhale, start with the chin and then the thoracic, and then a stronger curve in your lumbar, so tail tilts up. And then lead with the tail tucking under as you exhale, aiming to straighten out the lumbar, to lift it higher. So slow. Start the inhale, leading the chin forward, and the movement ripples down thoracic and lumbar. And then exhale, start with the tail. So those three curves of your spine, all participating. They can move independently and they can coordinate their actions. Hopefully that feels smooth for you. And then sink back into child pose for a moment, or rest if you're in a chair, hands on your knees. And come down from child pose. If you're in a chair, fold down into a forward bend so your chest comes down towards your thighs. Let me see if that works for me. Yes, so if you're in a chair, you've just got your chest folded down on your legs, and we're going to do the same movements, lifting the chin. If you're in child pose, take your arms behind you and lower the head. And then inhale, bring the chin forward, and exhale, tuck the chin. So the thoracic and lumbar are immobile. Two more like that. Only cervical spine involved, neck muscles. Exhale, tuck. One more. Gliding forward and then tucking as you exhale. And then we're going to add the thoracic by inhaling, lifting up your chest and sweeping the arms back. So nothing much in the lumbar. Try and keep the lumbar out of it. And then exhale. Lower the chin, thoracic relaxes. So lead with the chin as you inhale. Chin coming forward, and then chest lifts and arms reach back, squeezing between your shoulder blades, strong in the upper back. And exhale, rounding and softening in the thoracic. Drop the chin. Again, one more. Inhale, lead with the chin. Cervical spine, lift up your chest, reach the arms back and squeeze your shoulder blades together. And then release the thoracic, shoulders drop, chin tucks in. Next, we're going to use the lumbar as well. So in a chair, you can do this as well. We're going to lead with the chin, inhale, reach the arms out and rise up onto the knees and press the hips forward. And then exhale, lead with the tail. Tail sinks back, thoracic drops down, and we fold back down into child pose. Again, inhale, lead with the chin. Lift your chest, arms back, up on the knees, press forward through the hips, arms well back so your shoulder blades are pressing together. And then lead with the tail. Thoracic spine rounds, sinking back down into child pose. And we'll leave it there and come forward onto hands and knees. What we need to do, as well as mobilizing the spine, we need to stabilize and strengthen the muscles that support the spine. So we have lots of layers of muscle, the multifidus, very tiny strap muscles, and then big, long erector spinae, the back strap muscles. There are many, many layers of muscles. So one way of strengthening these back muscles would be to, from tabletop, reach out one arm, one leg, opposite limbs, and hold that strongly for a few breaths. If you're not in a tabletop, you're in a chair, then come to stand in a chair pose. So for people who aren't kneeling, find a position that lengthens your spine and holds the muscles firm. So if we're doing Superwoman, one arm, one leg, and hold it very steady. Keep breathing. And let it go, and we'll change sides. Or if you need to shake out, release in between, then do that. And then opposite arm and leg. And hold very steady and strong. And if you want to add to the strengthening benefits, then each time you exhale, just pulse with an extra lift. So exhale and lift those opposite limbs. Exhale and lift. And lift. And then pause. Have a rest. If you're doing chair pose, then it's time to stop. And I'll show you a different way of working on strength. From tabletop, we can, on the exhale, firm all of our strength towards the midline. So take a breath in, and as you exhale, feel an action of firming your power towards the midline. And on the next exhalation, so breathe in again. Next time you exhale, tuck your toes and lift the knees just a fraction. 1 or 2 centimeters. Hold that firmly. Keep breathing. And then knees down, sink back into child. This is called Barman Asana. It's quite difficult because I have arthritis in my wrist. So I'm going to do an alternative, which would be a forearm plank. So join me again in Barman Asana, or if you're standing, chair pose, make that really vigorous, bringing all of your power to the midline, like so. So the feeling of core support. Barman Asana is the one where you're tucking your toes and lifting the knees, holding that steadily for 5 breaths. Or forearm plank. So elbows on the floor. Take one leg back behind. Take the other leg back behind. Support with that strong core. And then release. Let it go. If you're able to come down onto the floor and lie on your back, then do that. Otherwise, you could do this, a version of this seated in a chair. So lying on your back, knees bent, or sitting upright in a chair. Arms are by your side. So again, we're working on strength to support the spine. Take a breath. And as you exhale, slide the right leg out straight, but it's hovering. It's just above the floor. And without moving your cervical, without moving your thoracic or lumbar region, raise the leg maybe a third of the way up and slowly lower the leg. So we'll do that a few times. If you're in a chair, you're lifting your right leg from the floor and keeping the curves of your spine supported and not involved. So you have the muscle strength to keep your spine steady while lifting this leg slowly. So exhale, raise the right leg maybe a third of the way to the ceiling and slowly back down. Just hovering, not touching. Last one, lift. And lower. And then bend that right knee, hug both knees into your chest and circle your knees. So opposing circles, circling outwards and around. And then inwards and around. Opposing circles again. And then feet to the floor, pause there. And one way of checking to see if the spinal curves are not moving would be to slide your right hand underneath your waist. If, it depends on your shoulder. If your shoulder lets you do that, my fingers of the right hand are just sliding under the waist. And then I'll extend my left leg out, hovering just off the mat. And on an exhale, raise the left leg. And there's no change in my lumbar curve. There's no change in my thoracic curve or cervical. See how it is for you. Slowly lower the left leg. So this is sort of exercise that you could even do in bed, after you do a few loosening warm-up things to start to engage the muscles that support your spine. So exhaling, raising the left leg, maybe a third of the way to the ceiling. The knee is straight. And inhale, hovering just above the floor. And one more like that. Exhale, lift. Hover for a few breaths. Can you hold it there for a few breaths? And then release. Lower the leg to the floor and bend the knees. Draw them into your chest and do some more opposing circles. And then roll yourself over. We're going to work with downward facing dog, but I'll offer a substitute if you don't want to get down on the floor. Working from a chair. So my version of down dog on a chair would be something like this. So I'm looking to lower my head. My hands are on the seat, my palms flat on the seat of the chair. And we'll go from straight leg to bent knees. But if you're able to get down on the floor, let's do the traditional version. So hands and knees. And then extend your hips up high. And then lower the knees. We're going into a deep knee bend. So we're going to make that lift, exhale, lengthen the spine, press through the hands, and then release the knees down and soften. So we're moving on the breath. Inhale. Spine is long and strong and muscles supporting around the spine. And then exhale, soften. So your arms might bend, your knees definitely bend. Do that a few times. Inhale, raise the pelvis. Press through the shoulders and arms to the palms. Spread your fingers, all parts of the hand carrying some weight. And then soften. Twice more like that. Inhale, stretch out long. Press from your shoulders through elbows and wrists. And soften and lower the knees. Release back into child pose. Pause there, have a rest. And then take a breath and we'll all come to stand. And we're going to repeat the spinal movements, the movement of the neck, the cervical region, movement of the chest, thoracic, and the lumbar. But we're going to begin in a very soft forward bend. So dangle downwards. Hands are near your feet, somewhere there, ankles or floor. Loosen your back, head is hanging. And now just your neck, inhale, lift the chin, look forward, just the neck. Stay in with knees bent. Exhale, tuck the chin. Again, inhale, draw your chin forward. Just your cervical muscles. Exhale. We're going to add thoracic region. So inhale, lift your chin, lift your chest, take the arms out and back, squeeze between your shoulder blades, and then release the thoracic. Drop your arms, chin to chest. Let's do that again. Inhale, lead with the chin, lift your chest off your thighs, take the arms back. So they're sweeping back behind the hips, very firm between the shoulder blades. And then release your thoracic, shoulders drop down, chin to chest. Again, inhale, lift your chin, lift the chest, sweep the arms back, squeeze between those shoulder blades, very strong in the upper back. And then release down, rounding your chest, drop the chin. Next time we're going to sweep all the way up. Start with the chin leading forward, thoracic spine, arms sweep back, straightening up, and sweep your arms up overhead. Bring the pelvis forward. And then leading with the pelvis, take your bottom back, sweep the arms down, release the shoulders down, chin to chest, all the way down into a very soft forward bend. Knees are deeply bent. Go again, lead with the chin, inhale, chest, strong in the thoracic, and sweep up overhead, straighten the thighs, arms high, and exhale, leading with your tail, lumbar curve, thoracic curve, cervical curve all the way back down into a forward bend. One more like that. Lead with the chin, inhale. Thoracic, strong. Arms sweep up. Press hips forward. Firm your glutes and thighs. And then just release the arms down, come into Tadasana. Drop your shoulders down. Give them a shrug. Roll the shoulders around. So we were doing flexion of the spine and extension. Let's do some lateral movements. So stand with your feet slightly higher than hip. And take a breath, raise your right arm, watching that arm. Bring it over the top of your head, tip to the left. Open up through the right side of the chest. And then inhale. Lift that right arm. Watching. Lateral movement. Lift that left arm over the top. Look down to your right foot. Feel the movement of your spine to the right. Slow, gentle movements without forcing. Rather, experiencing the sensations in your spine. But maybe keep your gaze straight ahead and focus on the range of movement that you have access to. A few more. And then stand in Tadasana. Bring your feet under your hips and think of stacking up. So your pelvis is above your feet. There's a abs. Stack your rib cage above the pelvis. And that heavy head above the rib cage. The load on the structure is least when everything is stacked up one chunk above the other. Let's work with rotational movement. So place your hands on your hips, take your feet slightly wider and rotate. Move slowly and let your eyes travel around, looking behind you. And keep your spine long, but rotating in a rhythmic way, visualizing how those vertebrae are swiveling one on the other. Rhythmically to right and left, with your eyes looking behind as though you're looking for something on the ground behind you. So your eyes travel further and they promote the rotation. Once your eyes are in that rotational action, then the spine can flow more freely. Take a little easy circling. And we're going to do another rotation and hold. So hands to the hips again. Take a breath in, reach up very tall through the crown, and then rotate to the left and take your right hand to the left shoulder and look over your left shoulder. Rotate as far as you comfortably can and then release and sweep the arms out and overhead. And then resting down, hands on hips again, and take a breath in and rotate to the right. And left hand goes to the right shoulder and rotate as far as you comfortably can. And then release, come back, sweep the arms up overhead, look up, release the arms down, look down. We're going to move into a forward bend. So bring your feet to your hips, sweep the arms up, look up, exhale, start folding at the tail, bend the knees, lower the trunk, tuck the chin, round your thoracic. So hands come down towards the floor, knees are deeply bent. And then the chin, lift the chest, inhaling all the way up to stand. Sweep the arms overhead, press forward through your hips. And then exhale, lead with the tail, hips go back, pull in the belly, drop your shoulders, chin to chest. So moving those spinal curves smoothly together. Again, chin, thoracic, arms out, squeeze between the shoulder blades, sweep up, press hips forward, and then exhale, lead with the tail going back. Pull in below the belly, below the navel, chin to chest, drop the head. Knees are deeply bent. Last one. Inhale, lead with the chin, sweep the arms out, upper back strong, come up to stand, arms overhead, touch your fingers together overhead, press hips forward, and then release, let your arms float down, stand in Tadasana. Reach up with a little axial extension. So that means extending up through the axis from the base of your spine, as though you could just be a little taller. So the natural curves in the neck and the thoracic spine and the lumbar spine are still there, but you're activating the muscles. And feel the sense of lively energy. So we could draw attention to the flow of energy in this prana vayu model that I mentioned in the email I sent you. As we inhale, the prana vayu is bringing energy in and then it's distributed. As we exhale, samana energy at the navel is applying power and fire, power of digestion and power of contraction, and that helps us to exhale. And the energy hopefully is the nourishment is moving throughout the body. Just give everything a good old jiggle, shake everything loose. And if you're someone who's very familiar with your own characteristics, you'll know that, well, sometimes it's my hip, sometimes it's my shoulder, or, my digestion, it lets me down sometimes, or you will know your own personal characteristics. And if you focus on an area of weakness that you'd like to strengthen, while we do one last movement. So we're just going to come back to a chair. Yeah, I think we'll sit in a chair. So pause for a moment and feel the effect of our practice through your energy systems, your pranamaya kosha. And perhaps, that one spot in your body that is often troubling you needs just a little more attention. And you could find a way of focusing on that region. And maybe it's, emotional pain as much as physical sensation. Focus on your heart as though you're taking care with kindness and compassion of your own needs. And direct your prana to that spot in your body that you'd like to heal, whether it's a physical healing or an emotional healing, a mental healing. Just sit quietly, focusing on nourishing your own self. Direct a flow of life force wherever you need it in particular. And breathe the air and open the body. Breathe the air and open the body. And lift the gloom and untangle the knots. Lift the gloom, untangle the knots. Send kindness and nourishment throughout your body. If you'd like to come to the floor, either in Shavasana or with a block under your pelvis to do a final opening up of the body. So choose what you're going to do. Will you go directly into Shavasana, or will you take that final little opening action? Lying on your back, tucking a block under the pelvis. Beginning with both knees bent. Sliding the block under the pelvis. And then carefully trying out, straightening one leg. Arms are by your sides, palm turn up. And then changing legs. maybe both legs straight or lifting both legs up in the air so that you're in a very slight inversion. So I have my pelvis supported on the block and both legs raised. So stay there for a few breaths, or you choose what feels comfortable for you. And then when you're ready, move to lie down in Shavasana. And please make sure that you have support. You need to have your forehead and chin parallel with the floor. So if you find that your chin is lifting up higher than your forehead, that suggests you definitely need some cushion or rolled up blanket underneath your neck, underneath head. You may have support beneath the knees. That always feels good. Helps the back to release. Perhaps a little more warmth. There's a touch of autumn wind in the air. A few leaves swirling around my backyard. Come to rest. And feel the sensations in your neck, in your upper chest, the thoracic spine, and feel the sensations in your lumbar region around the waist. Notice whether you feel symmetrical. Do you feel evenly weighted? We are now beginning to understand that the shape of our vertebrae actually changes as we age. It's not sort of something you'd think of intuitively, but the spinous processes, they're the little angular bits that jut out of your vertebral body, the big chunky bit of the vertebrae, it sort of juts out, and they're attachment points for muscles. They change shape as we age. They get thicker and wider. They impede the act of spinal extension, that is going into a back bend, just because they change shape, after 50 or so. The weight distribution of our body changes a bit, so the bones react by thickening in a way to support our bodies, and that changes the degree of axial extension extension we have available. In other words, if you want to do one of those amazing wheel poses where you arch right back in a shape of a wheel going backwards, then it's much easier in your 20s than it is in your 60s or 70s. Relax, we're not going to go there. So we try to keep our vertebrae healthy, our discs healthy, our supporting musculature strong, because this stabilizes the spine. Our practice today has been focused on the effective and efficient movement of those spinal curves, the neck region, the cervical curve, the thoracic curve, and the lumbar curve, and keeping the muscles that support those spinal regions strong. The movements we did encompass the whole range of possible spine movements: forward bends, back arches, 2 lateral movements, 2 rotational movements, and axial extension or lengthening. So make sure you maintain these movements in your daily activity. And if you find yourself holding one particular posture for a time, if you're working at a desk for a long time, doing a jigsaw for a long time, I did that last night, bending over, gardening for a long time, take the opportunity to move your spine in a different movement. So if you've been bending forwards over a table, over a desk, or over the garden bed, then straighten up, do some rotations, lateral bends. So rather than holding a position for a lengthy time, tiring out and making some muscles slack, maintain the strength of those supporting muscles with different movements. And send kindness, send life force to that spot in your body, to that heart that needs healing, to that weaker hip. Focus your mind there. Breathe into that spot. Optimize your healing. Take control of your healing. If you feel ready, take some small movements. Gently mobilize. You could stay in Shavasana if you prefer. Helen Hall has offered to take us out today with our final thoughts for our class. Take a bit of a stretch. And then come to sit, stacking up each module one above the other. So stack your chest above your pelvis, head above the chest, feet flat on the floor. So when we can achieve this upright position, the load is least. The potential for pain is least. Our muscles have to do less work if each segment is stacked accurately. Thanks for sharing our class. Helen, over to you.
So I'm not exactly prepared for this, but
Come closer to your microphone, please.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Is that better? I didn't actually prepare for this, but when Pam at the beginning said, would we do a little presentation this term again, I thought an experience this week for me was just a very inspiring and beautiful thing to share. John and I watched on Netflix a movie, Wide Open Sky, and it's a documentary of a true story, and it's a lady, I think her name's Michelle, who teaches music to children in outback New South Wales. And she's got this incredible, well, she's got a real gift in teaching music, but also wanted what she teaches and does with the children is bringing them up to a very high standard. And she was wanting to sense and give opportunity to children that she sensed had potential. And so in a really beautiful way, she, throughout the schools, screened the children, and she developed a choir, but screened the children and selected 130 children for a choir. And in there, just amazing training. And Helen, you'd be really interested in it. It was incredible how in a very simple way, but professional way, she trained them, took them, they all met and had a weekend, or it might have been 4-day workshop, and then went back and practiced for another month or two, and then put on in one of the country towns this big concert. And throughout the movie, you see the progression of the children, and the children that didn't make it, she just does it in such a beautiful way that that they're not hurt. But the children that are selected, they interview and they just talk naturally through the documentary, are just really touched and excited, and sort of like their eyes are open to a potential they didn't know they had. And the documentary was 2015, and that was the 10th year she'd run the program. And in this particular group of kids, they then at the end tell you where they ended up with the musical skills, and it's quite amazing. And there's a couple of really beautiful, special little things that come out, which I would love to tell you, but I don't want to, because it would be really nice if you watch it to just get the surprises yourself. But
say the name of the video again, please.
Wide Open Sky. Wide Open Sky. And the choir,
Wide Open Sky.
Right, and the choir is called Mirabilla. And I can put some details in an email for you.
Her name's Michelle Leonard.
Leonard, it is. I wondered if you actually knew her.
Yeah, she's pretty well known for all the stuff that she's been doing.
She's really amazing and such energetic, and how she deals with these kids are all from very different socioeconomic backgrounds. There's Indigenous, there's Asian, there's white kids, and all from very small rural schools. And wow, the opportunity and inspiration she gives them is really amazing. And yeah, it's just encouraging with all the other gloomy news we're hearing at the moment. it was just really lovely to switch on to something that was so positive.
Something uplifting. How marvelous.
Very
Thank you,
inspirational.
Helen. We'll meet again same time next week. And I hope you have a chance to practice on your mat through the week. It makes such a difference when you do that. So Om Shanti, everyone.
Shanti.
Peace in your life. Peace in your world. See you same time next week.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Thanks, Pam. That was great.
Thank you. And who's going to take us out next week?